Alright. So this is gonna show the chicken coop. Here, back up. Take these. So decided to do the 5-gallon bucket nesting boxes. Seems to be working okay. And we'll modify as we go. This is inside of the little covered coop that we have. There's a little roost up there for them and up there, and this is my door, and there's a roost on the door for when I close it. And went back and forth about why the nesting boxes would be situated like this and not kind of the more typical way where there's like a smaller door where you just reach in and grab an egg and not a big door. And I don't know if we'll keep it like this, but this is what it is right now. And it's worked out pretty well. It is big enough that if the chickens really want to be adventurous, they can escape, when we open it. But so far that hasn't been too big of an issue as long as we open it carefully on our side. So it's got a gap on this side that's not big enough for a chicken. It's got a big gap on this side and a ladder so the chickens can come up without an issue up and down. And right now we've got 7 chickens and they seem to be pretty comfortable in here. I mean, it's crowded, but they're comfortable. And it's nice that it's got the gaps for air circulation, but also so that we can hose it out pretty easily, and we just spray it out every couple of days or something to keep it reasonably clean, and then change out the straw. And we'll see how it does in the summer. There's a vent up at the top to let air breathe, but I don't know if it will be enough to keep it cool enough in the summer. I think it'll do all right. That's also why we painted it white. And I wanted to make it very rainproof, waterproof, so we can leave it out here in the grass and have the sprinklers going and not have it be completely destroyed in, a year. Want it to last a little while. So it's marine board plywood, pressure treated plywood, and painted with latex paint, so hopefully it does okay. And so there's a little prop for the door, and if I unlock the door so that it can close, you'll see my little roost will hinge down and then kick out so that they can roost on that once the door is closed. Again, if they're roosting there while I open the door, it can be tricky, but I just don't open the door while they're roosting. This box here, eventually I hope to make it a dust box for them. I'm still working out how big I want the hole to be and everything. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but either way, it should be okay. As I come around, got your typical watering setup with little water tray things. They seem to be liking this ladder. During the day, they just kind of sit up there in sun, I guess, just hang out. And we throw them some of our scraps. They enjoy the grass. This watering setup, I have the meter that you see sticking up there with the red top. That red top is my gauge for the water level, so that when it gets down to the bottom, that's when the water's empty. So right now the water's full. In the summer, I assume that would move a bit faster. 4 little water spigots for them, and then that black 90 is to fill it up. Wanted to keep it kind of covered, so not vertical, so that dust and dirt and whatever doesn't get in it. So hopefully the 90 protects the water. And then I can take the hose and just fill it up using that. And the support for it is really just something I put together, welded a little bracket, and it seems to be working. Although if I was going to do it again, I would do it differently, because 5 gallons of water is pretty heavy. And so I'd probably get a better support for it. I'm not sure how that's going to do long term. This is the food, just an extra drain pipe that I had laying around. And so it comes down, and down at the bottom, that's where they're feeding out of it when they want to. And at first, I didn't have that little extra piece on there. I just had the 90, and they were basically just dumping it out on the grass. So I added that little piece to try and keep the food in there, so they can eat it while it's there without having to dump it out on the grass. So that's worked out pretty well. This is how we fill it. Pour it in there, cover it up, a little weight so that the wind doesn't blow the cover off. What else? Oh, the wheels. Okay, so the wheels, I've got this wheel set up on both sides. It's one wheel. I doubled it up so there's 2 wheels on each side, 4 wheels total, and an axle that goes all the way across. And that axle is secured on the wooden frame on either side, so here and the other side. And to prevent twisting on the wooden frame, I built a bracket that brought the metal up to here so that it doesn't twist. It remains fairly square to the frame. And that piece of metal is so that when the wheels flip around, the part of the metal that holds the wheels rests against the metal and not against the wood. Otherwise, it would quickly wear out the wood just from the weight of it pinching against that. So hopefully that makes sense. One of the problems was in this design is getting wheels that were small enough, because as the wheels flip around, it raises the height of the coop in proportion to the size of the wheel. And so if it's a big wheel, like a bicycle wheel, it's gonna lift off the ground like a foot. That's not gonna work because chickens will just escape. And so these are 6-inch wheels. So it raises the coop off the ground like 4 inches, which is just enough that it makes me a little nervous. On either side, we've got gaps here of about 1.5 inches, which I'm not concerned about. But that 1.5 inches plus the, let's call it 4 inches of lift here, is almost a 5 or 6 inch gap here. So yeah, I don't lift it up by the wheels unless they're roosting to move it, which seems to be working out pretty well. And when I lift it up, it's almost perfectly balanced, such that when I lift it up, the wheels go underneath and this side will lift up first. But with very little effort, this side will lift up. And when this side lifts up, because this distance, the pivoting distance is longer, this side will actually lift up like a full 1.5 feet. So fortunately that doesn't lift up first. But anyway, when it lifts up and it's even, when I'm holding it even across, it's, maybe 4 inches or so across the whole length, 4 inches off the ground, and it very easily moves around the yard. So right now I'm not comfortable doing it during the day, so I do it at night. It seems to be working well, but yeah, if I was to change it, I think if I was to do it over again, the wheels would probably be back a little bit more somehow. I'm not sure exactly how I'd do that, but it has been convenient a couple of times to pull the wheels up and then have this end up high so that we can get underneath. I intentionally did not put a door on it, like a man door, because I can get into it pretty easily without a man door, and because man door just adds that much more complexity and weight and hinges and locks to maintain, and I just don't want to do it. But yeah, you can see the pivot arm. So this is the handle. If I lift up on this, it's going to pivot those wheels into the ground, and it's going to lift up the whole unit. And as I flip it all the way around, that arm will stop about right there. as those wheels tuck under and then lock underneath that cross member. So when that arm is vertical, or mostly vertical up here, there's this little pin that I have. Yeah, right here. And this pin will lock into the top of that handle so that it doesn't accidentally go back to the resting position while you're trying to move it, which I tested, and it is possible because of the way that they tuck underneath. If you tuck the wheels underneath to move it and you don't lock it in place and then you drag it that direction, the wheels will fall down. And it's a 4-inch drop. That plywood's heavy, so it is pretty abrupt. Maybe even traumatic to the coop. So I have that pin that I just showed you on the string so that we can put it on the top of the handle, and it locks the handle in place so that if the wheels want to slide back into the normal position, that it won't be able to because the handle will be locked in the upright position. So I haven't had any issues with that lately. Well, ever. I think that's probably it. Initially, this cross member was actually a structural support. And then I put the ladder on it just thinking the chickens might use it, and they've used it a lot. So note to self there. If I would do it over again, I might not use 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood just because it's so heavy. I mean, probably 80% of the weight is just in plywood, and it makes for a good strong coop. It's just really heavy. So maybe 1/2 inch, maybe even 3/8, I don't know. What else? The wheels might go back a little bit to off balance the weight of the coop. The watering strap securement thing that I built, the bracket, I would do differently. And probably the feeder, the pellet feeder, I would do differently just because of the way that it was pouring out food. The chickens were just pouring out food on the ground at first. Other than that, I think it's working out pretty good so far. I really like that it doesn't have a bunch of doors and hinges. I like that I can access everything easily. I even like the 1 inch or 1.5 inch gap on the ends because we can fish out eggs that they lay in the grass, or if we want to quickly like throw in some scraps or whatever, it's pretty easy. So that's the coop. Pretty good so far. I'll definitely be interested to see how it does once it gets sprinklered on every day, every morning in the summer. Hitting it with sprinklers every morning, I think we'll be able to tell quickly how it's going to hold up. All right. See ya.